Let's go to PlayStation is HBO's Microsoft, is Netflix, and Nintendo is Disney, says ex-Sony executive. So Adam Boyes, VP of the third-party relations of PlayStation from 2012 to 2016, was the co-star of Infamous, and this is also how you share games on PlayStation, a video that targeted Microsoft's new Xbox One disc rights policy that's also plummeted into ultimately removing. Now, 10 years later, Boyes spoke to Gamers Tag Radar for the lengthy interview. I thought it was Sean Layden, but I guess it's a different person. Lengthy interview. It's also combative about the former rival, indicating that Xbox is doing seems logical, and there's also no victims. It's also a new multi-platform distribution plan for former exclusives. He says, quote, I understand why people have feelings about it and opinions because of their identity of me choosing a brand and being beholden to that brand as unilateral, as also therefore that it should also be one source of all content, Boyes said. He believes that the current ecosystem of the console/game space is fundamentally changed, and he uses an interesting metaphor to describe it. He says, quote, so if you think about it, that the analogy that maybe PlayStation's HBO, Microsoft is Netflix, and Nintendo is Disney, and then the job is to get incredibly interactive and engaging entertainment out of as many people as possible. Okay? The metaphor doesn't quite work out as well, all three of these, and streaming service, and Netflix is not giving that content to other places. But I get what he's saying. HBO is known for producing high-quality original series, and the air is on the service. I would say that, all right? PlayStation is that HBO where they're making The Sopranos, they're making an Entourage, they're making Deadwood, they're making good quality stuff and putting it on their system. I get that. Netflix pioneered the subscription streaming model in the way that Microsoft is trying to do the Game Pass, and it's been compared almost a one-to-one type of scenario of what Netflix said it would never make it when it first started. They didn't make money, or I shouldn't say they didn't make money. They didn't explode until like 11 years into the cycle, okay? I'll have to bring up that article. We talked about that like over a year ago, okay? I brought up Netflix and what they started at and what they are today, okay? Exponentially got faster and more. But, yeah, Microsoft is trying to keep prices down, sort of like Netflix, because Netflix, when Netflix started making their own original content to compete with the HBOs, to compete with the Maxes and stuff like that, they had to keep their budgets lower. But because they were producing their own stuff, first party, the subscription model went up dramatically, right? With like Orange is the New Black. I forget a lot of shows that came out back then, right? But it skyrocketed up, even though Stranger Things, stuff like that. Okay. It says Nintendo being Disney is kind of an obvious comparison with this mass family appeal. Okay. He says the one thing he does admit is that all Microsoft's software strategy makes sense in a lot of ways. There's probably going to be a lot of obvious challenges to continue to make the case for the hardware, where we have to see the sales drop every time new numbers are revealed. Okay. As it stands here, the things are in terms of strategy are for each brand. PlayStation console exclusive single-player games that launch on PC 2+ years later. That's not true anymore. Was it 15 months? 15 months right now? Multiple games that launch same day on PC. Few on Xbox to come, like Marathon. Okay, Xbox, every game on the table, cross-platform, release on PlayStation, the Switch 2, depending on the title, and it can also be the same day, time delayed, or indefinite point in the future, if ever. Appeal to Microsoft loyalists in the same day on Xbox Game Pass launches, right? That's the business model they're going with. You can play these games everywhere, okay, but there might be time delayed, or if you just pay $20, you get it day and date, right? Type of thing. Nintendo's doing what Nintendo always has done, which is crazy Uncle Nintendo. Okay, with beloved first-party games, we'll get more third-party games and some Xbox games with launch of Switch 2, okay, and PlayStation IPs. Okay, so there's Nintendo slowly, but they don't have to. Nintendo, I remember doing the numbers a while ago, right? With all the numbers they have, all the things sold, they're almost at 1 billion consoles sold. Okay, 1 billion. With all their Nintendo's systems and their handheld devices, they're all like 870, 900 million units sold across the board, right? They'll probably surpass that in the next 4 years, right? They'll pass 1 billion units, okay? Which is just insane, okay? This is why Nintendo can do what they want, okay? Because that's just consoles almost selling 1 billion units, right? It's like 880 million, 870 million units, whatever it is, okay, total. Okay? And this is why they can do what they want. Because think about that, 870 million units sold across 40 years. And then all the software that they sold on top of that. You see some of them, and I know people are like, Mario Kart sold that many because it was bundled. It doesn't matter. If it was bundled or not bundled, it sold that many units with that. And they have like 60 million units, I think, sold, right? I didn't buy a bundle for Mario Kart. We bought Mario Kart, right? So there's a lot of people that bought Mario Kart separate, okay? But that's why they're making their money, okay? As you can see, the console war is not what it used to be. Xbox lost, but it's trying to be a leader in the subscription space, which I've said in the past. Nintendo has just sold more consoles than they just ever have, and Sony's still putting out many critical hits, but it's tough balance, but big single-player budgets and successful multiplayer releases. We'll see there where things go from here. Watch the Full Boys interview here. So I might have to watch that. We might have to watch that on a different day and listen to him speak. I've said this in the past as well, where PlayStation's spending $300 million from that document that came out, and they said that, it's well over, $350 million for Spider-Man, $250 for Horizon. Their costs are super high, okay? So they have to sell minimum 6 million, 7 million units for these things. And they also get in the high 80s, low 90s for their scores for Metacritic, OpenCritic, and stuff like that, okay? And I've said in the past, and again, there's no proof to this, but I said, what about if Xbox doesn't want to hit the 90s because it does cost $200 million or $250 or $300 million to hit that 90 echelon of OpenCritic, Metacritic type of stuff. But instead, they're only spending $150 million on their games, and they somewhere in the mid 80s to maybe high 80s, like Indiana Jones. I don't know how much that cost. Have they said how much Indiana Jones cost? I don't think it cost as much as a God of War. I don't think it costs as much as a Spider-Man, okay? But the turnaround is, regardless of if it's as good or not, is that an 85 to an 89, right, sells 4 million units, and it didn't cost them $300 million to make. So they can sell 3 to 4 million units and be profitable or shoot past what their goal was. Where if you spend $300 million, $350 million, $400 million for a video game, then you have to sell way more. Well, if they can get, and I've talked about this in the past of Game Pass, I think what did I say? For every 3 people that play like Starfield, basically that is the price. Yeah, because it's like $60, right? $60 to $70. So it's like 3 people counts as like 1 sale for that month, okay, for the game sale of Starfield. So if they had 10 million people play it, that's equivalent to like 3.5 million copies sold for that, plus the additional 3 million that Starfield sold, just people buying it on PC. So that total, it's like 6 million, 7 million in revenue, in money, about 7 million units sold. Okay. Well, if the game didn't cost $300 million and they only needed to sell 3 million copies, well, that's well profit, right, into their pockets. And we saw the stats of Game Pass is up. They're making more money. So it'll be interesting to see. Now, I did bring this up where Netflix, I don't know how much this has anything to do, but Netflix here, okay, this is what Netflix has done. How many subscribers does Netflix have? When they first started, they had 400,000, okay? In their first, what's Game Pass? 7 years? 2017 is when it came out. I think it's like summertime of 2017, right? 7 years, 8 years. So the first 8 years, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, let's go to 2009. We'll even do that. Okay, 8 years. From 2001 to 2009, 8 years. They had 11.89 million subscribers for the first 8 years of Netflix, right? Then they started adding money where they started putting money into it to make original programming. And it went from 11 million to 18 million. It jumped 7 million. Then it jumped an additional 6 million. Then it jumped an additional 6 million, right? And then once it got to 2016, okay, that's when the precipice came as far as people were okay letting go of physical media and just watching streaming services and started. And it went from 89 to 110, and then it just started exponentially getting bigger and bigger, okay? So if we're going to compare Game Pass to Netflix, then let's look at the chart here, okay? In the first 7-8 years of Game Pass, it's stayed pretty leveled, right? It's around 25 to 30 million people getting Game Pass, and that changes all the time. So they're around here, okay? They're at like year 11 of Netflix. and they have like another 5 years to get to 110, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 years for Netflix got them from 30 million to 110 million. Now, I'm not saying that Game Pass can do the exact same thing, but what I'm saying is it is possible that if Game Pass is Netflix of video games, it took that long, right? It took 16 years to get to that number of 100 million subscribers. Well, it's a different landscape from 2001, okay, to 2025. Exponentially, this gets faster and faster. More people adopt or adapt to what technology is. And when the industry shifts and changes and starts to show you that they're going cloud, they're going digital, they're going these ways, more people, especially if prices, in the last conversation that we had the last couple of weeks, if GTA comes out and is a $100 game and everybody else starts to say, well, they charge $100, we're going to charge $100, that is going to make this number for Game Pass. Now, these are Netflix numbers, by the way. These are not Game Pass numbers. These are Netflix numbers. But that will bring people into the streaming services faster, right? And more rapid, okay? Exponentially getting more subscribers, not just for Game Pass, for all services like an Ubisoft Plus, like an EA Play, like all of these other kind of services, okay? So that's what I think. That's potential, and this is where I would think Xbox is looking at Netflix, going, well, we want to get to 100 million units by, 100 million subscribers by, what did they say, 2030 or whatever it is. So they have 5 more years, and we don't know their number right now. People think it's like around 32, 35 million or whatever, maybe 40. So we'll see what happens there. Okay. So yeah, these are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comment section down below. Let me know in the live chat, what do you think about Sony being HBO and Microsoft being Netflix and Nintendo being Disney? Please make sure you share, like, subscribe if you like what I do here. Check out some of our other videos. Thanks for watching.